From 21 News, this is a Decision 2025 special, the Youngstown Mayoral Debate.
And we are coming to you live from 21 WFMJ in the heart of downtown, where two candidates will share their promises, plans, and vision for the city if elected to serve as Youngstown mayor this November. Welcome to the Decision 2025 Youngstown Mayoral Debate. 21 News is your place for politics. I'm Lindsay McCoy, your moderator, and I'd like to introduce the candidates. First, we're starting off with incumbent candidate Youngstown Mayor Jamael Tito Brown. He was first elected in 2017 as mayor. He is wrapping up his second term and is running for a third. His experience also includes serving as Chief Deputy Treasurer in the Mahoning County Treasurer's Office, and he previously served as President of Youngstown City Council. In addition to his community involvement, he is a YSU grad and a lifelong Youngstown resident of the 3rd Ward, where he resides with his family. An independent candidate, Derrick McDowell. You may know him as the founder of the Youngstown Flea, which launched in 2016. He has worked as an independent consultant since 2013 after leaving his corporate job with AT&T. And with that company, he volunteered with several organizations. He's also a Youngstown native and a graduate of Cheney High School and attended YSU for 3 years studying graphic design before taking a job. Derrick lives in Youngstown with his wife and 4 children. Okay, so this is how the debate will work. We have an open format. We will not allow the candidates to interrupt each other. Instead, we will allow for rebuttals, but I do reserve the right to move along with this debate as I see fit. Prior to the debate, we flipped a coin and the winner was able to decide if they wanted the first question or if they wanted the last word in the closing statements. Derrick McDowell won that coin toss and he has chosen to take the final closing statement. So thank you for both being here and agreeing to do the debate. Let's try to let each other talk so the voters can hear the answers to these important questions. Mayor Brown, our first question goes to you.
Thank you so much, Lindsay.
Yes, in the last week, the city has seen at least 6 shootings, with one involving a police officer. Overall, the crime rate is down and homicides in the city have been cut in half this year alone. But FBI statistics paint a muddy picture with spikes and dips going back for years. What strategies does the city need to have in place to maintain a low crime rate?
Lindsay, thank you for that question. I think you answered it right. There's spikes up and down. Right now, we have to continue to focus on what we've been doing. We've been doing our patrol. We've been working on our impact initiative. And our impact initiative is focusing on active patrols out in the community. This year, we've taken over 107 guns off the street, illegal guns, from irresponsible gun owners. We want to continue working with the community. I think one of the biggest pieces you'll see from our police and our men and women, that we're doing more intervention and prevention. So we're getting out in the community, engaging to the community, and making sure we have trust and honesty between the police and the citizens. So as you look at the numbers, the 56%, it's not a celebration for us, it's an acknowledgement. But we got so much more work to do, and we recognize that when you see the spike in violence, we want to continue ramping it up. One of the things we're going to continue to make sure we do, our cadet program, we're going to make sure we continue recruiting our own and growing our own. We see a shortage of young men and women in law enforcement, so we now have a cadet program. We have 30 individuals that are slotted to be in there. When they come out of OPATA, they'll be one of the most well-rounded officers that we've had in years. So we saw this problem. We started making sure we can have them on the streets. They know the community. When they get out in the community, they'll be better officers to deal and address some of those spikes in crime.
Mr. McDowell, the same question to you. The city's crime rate is down and homicides in the city, like I mentioned, have been cut in half this year. But what strategies does the city need to have in place to maintain this lower crime rate?
Thank you for that question, Lindsay. We know that law enforcement is a great deterrent to crime in our community, and so unfortunately we're in a space now where we're seeing the staffing levels of our Youngstown's finest, our police department, be at a historical low. I believe Mayor Brown even acknowledged in a previous candidates forum that number is about 37 law enforcement officers that we're missing from a force that needs to ensure that it can do its job without being mandated for overtime. That is dangerous for our officers when it comes to their quality of life and their responses to community issues that we're dealing with. And so we need to look at that recruitment and be much more aggressive about it. And that recruitment comes down to how well we're paying our officers, the morale of the department, we know that to be a challenge because our law enforcement officers took an internal survey that told us that there's a lack of trust in leadership, that they don't feel supported. And so that's a part of the issue. But further on down the line is the retention of our officers, making sure they feel like this is the place where they want to continue their career, not just cut their teeth for a 3-year period of time that's required by that cadet program, but that they are looking at this and saying, I remember when Youngstown's finest was the place that everyone else was competing with. And now we're in a position where we're competing with much smaller cities to retain our officers. And then you get into, and I apologize, I want to finish with, what are our residents still saying about how they perceive violent crime going on in our community? That's still an important factor, because if I don't feel safe, and I know we can talk about perception, but we have to admit perception is a lot of people's reality, and being able to walk down the street, to take a walk with my dog, ensuring that not only the street lights are on, but that I feel safe because I see patrols coming through my community, and that even when I engage with our youth, that they are a part of our community that needs engaged well before they find themselves having the police called on them.
Mayor Brown, do you have a rebuttal?
I do. Actually, what he referenced, the 37 officers, that's since 2013. That's how many officers have left the department since 2013. That's 37 officers have left the department. We should start seeing a plus in 2024 of officers coming in. But we want to figure out what we continue to do. My goal over the next 4 years is to make sure that we have a real-time data center, crime data center, where we're taking our technology that we're working on right now. And that's why we're seeing the numbers drop. Our solvability rates are going up. We have Ricotta, we have our Flock, and now we want to connect with those store owners who have their cameras. We want to make sure it's real time, the officers can see it, and then now we're offering Ring doorbell cameras for our residents as well. So all those things you hear are all the things that we're doing. We're not talking about doing them, we're doing them. We're out in the community doing faith walks once a month to reduce the crime, and we're building trust with the citizens while we're in those neighborhoods.
Okay, McDowell, anything else you'd like to say? Okay,
thank you.
We're going to move on to the next question. Derrick McDowell, continuing on the crime topic, the Brown administration allocated $10.6 million in its ARP funds to revitalize many of the city's parks. And experts have told us that this is a viable strategy for crime reduction, but only if there is a long-term plan or solution to maintain activities there. How would you ensure that that investment is successful?
Well, you know, what we have to acknowledge is that $10.6 million set aside for the parks came out of an American Rescue Plan out of COVID. And so we have to acknowledge that when we have that infusion of money into our checking account for the city, that is not something we can rest on. That is not sustainable. That is essentially a bailout. And so we were able to go out and redo a lot of the parks that we're cutting ribbons on with a bailout scenario. And if we, as a city, don't have a comprehensive plan, the reason those parks are now being redone is because they've been in years of disinvestment and disrepair. And so we can find ourselves right in that same position if we don't have, number one, a maintenance strategy. We don't see that. We don't see the monies there after these American Rescue Funds are gone. The community's asking for that transparency. Parks that don't often turn a revenue for themselves to be upkept is a challenge. And so if that's a challenge, then we know that upkeep is one thing, but the programming that goes along with making sure those parks can engage our residents. Safety is an issue at those parks. We saw a murder at Crandall Park. We saw a murder at Homestead Park. And we were challenged with the fact that we often don't have the security cameras that are active at these parks to help us solve these crimes. We are not seeing patrols. We don't have on-site while the parks are open the security guards necessary to make our community feel safe for the present conditions that we're dealing with. So long term, we're going to have to figure out how to bolster our general fund, which contributes to the park department. And that only comes when you're increasing your tax base. When you're increasing your tax base with businesses and residents moving here, now more folks are contributing to that so that we can take care of that investment for $10.6 million. So it's a comprehensive strategy, and we're not seeing that. There's nowhere, there's a public plan that I as a resident, or many of our residents right now, can look to and follow along with so that we're on the same page as a community.
And to make clear, you would be in favor of raising taxes to maintain those?
No, not raising taxes. We're talking about bringing in folks who are going to help contribute to that tax that already exists.
All right.
We're saying that we need more businesses coming here, not leaving, more residents coming here and moving here, not leaving, so they can help us with that bottom line.
All right, we'll get to that topic in the future here. But first, Mayor Brown, as I mentioned, you use the ARP funds to revitalize some of these city parks. It may be a good strategy to reduce crime, but only with that long-term plan for maintaining the services, maintaining the quality and safety of those parks. What's your plan to do that?
Well, you know what? My babies deserve the best. Our kids in our neighborhood deserve the best. When we talked about to the neighborhoods, when we went out and we got the ARPA fundings, we said, what do you want? We said, we listen, we learn, and we're doing. They said, we want to make sure our parks are up to date. Lindsay, when I was going to the park, the swings, there were 6 of them. Only 2 of them worked. We wanted to make sure the next generation of our children have the best. We wanted the same thing that any other community had with their parks. And maintaining it, we've already decided, and we figured out how we do it. This is nothing new to us. This is general operation. This is governance of what we do. And to get the revenue up, we've raised we were at $176 million when we started. We're at $220 million general revenue now. That's where the dollars are. We're getting business to come in and want to expand and give those monies. But we talk about programming. Let's talk about programming. We have more programming in day camp for our kids now. We're seeing the numbers grow up. We have to have a waiting list for those kids to want to come there, because we're giving them programming, we're giving them something fundamental, we're exposing them to things they've never been exposed to. We have a program now, my 3rd year, I'm proud to say, Fishing with the Mayor. I found out that there were children that had never been fishing. I asked one of my friends, and he was 49 years old. I say, let's go fishing. He says, I've never been fishing. And it sparked the thought in my mind that some of these kids will never go fishing. So we do Fishing with the Mayor. Now we do camp overnight. Some kids have never had a chance to sleep outdoors overnight. Overnight in our park, we have our kids sleep overnight. So they're getting exposed to the different things that they need to. So when we talk about what we want for our babies, we pour into them, we're investing into them, and they deserve the same things that other communities deserve as well. So the security cameras are there, we have patrols, and we have caretakers at all our pavilions.
And Mr. McDowell, would you like to respond?
Yeah, I just want to make sure we understand this is not a debate or whether we deserve quality parks. We understand that. There's no argument there whatsoever for me. This is a matter of making sure we understand how we got to this point. We talk about the fact that we have money in the budget for these parks, but the only thing that has allowed these parks to be redone now is a $10.6 million infusion from American Rescue Funds. We have watched for decades our parks sit in disrepair because the money wasn't there. And just because we got this rescue fund money doesn't mean that it's there now going forward. When that money runs out, we're going to have the hard conversation, because it's not just parks that this American Rescue money paid for. It paid for our ambulance services. It paid for the projects you see from council members. It paid for the equipment investments for fire trucks. It paid for equipment investments for tasers. And so the parks aren't the only thing to budget within a general fund. And so we can't simply just say that there's cameras there. When I watched, our community had to watch a debate about whether or not we had the footage from a crime that happened at Homestead Park. I went there myself to observe how many cameras we had in that area, and largely what you found was folks saying that the cameras weren't networked. They weren't networked because we didn't have the funding. You didn't see a security guard on site when I was there. And so the hours of the park being open and making sure our community sees brand new parks, falls in love with them, but also feels safe as they join hands and go enjoy them. That's a story we need to talk about much more deeply.
Mayor, would you like to respond? Or?
I would. I think
Okay.
we're focusing on the funding and not the fundamentals. I gave you a number of $176 million when I started 8 years ago. We're at $220 million. Our general revenue is growing. We've got great leadership. Our park and rec directors there. All I hear is the spot on the wall. What about celebrating some of these great things and talking about where we're going to be? That's why we have budget process. We budget these things. We budget the maintenance. We budget the upkeep of our parks. And we've been doing that for the last 8 years under my administration.
Let's move on because we were talking about ARP funds, so let's keep going.
All right.
Mayor Brown, you first told us in 2018 that you had a team working on a plan for sustainable EMS service. It's 2025. The city has just extended a contract with a private company again, and there's still no in-house service. Is it your position that a city-run EMS service will never be feasible?
I think through the feasibility study that we did, I think when we talked about it, Lindsay, we talked about what's possible. So we had a feasibility study that was conducted, and they gave us the scenario that we are at right now is the best scenario. That we need to do what happened across the nation is that we need to outsource that service. We have to look at the cost. We have to look at long-term costs. I think you're going to see legislators that are trying to make it a mandate for municipalities to have their own EMT or ambulance service, but we can't afford it right now. The upgrading of it and putting it into place, those are things that don't necessarily happen in municipalities. There's a reason that we don't have ambulance service from the years past. So what we've done, we've invested in our fire trucks. We've invested in figuring out how do we continue the service and the contract with the EMT that we're doing, the ambulance service that we're dealing with right now. So the feasibility told us we're on the right track. Just right now is not the time for the city to do so. They gave us a projection of when they thought we could revisit it. But I think there's going to be an issue where the city's going to have to use this as our arm to deal with ambulance services.
And Mr. McDowell, there have been calls for the city to take over emergency medical services, and there's been a feasibility study, as the mayor mentioned, that's been done to look into this. Do you believe the city should run its own EMS service or continue to contract out, and how would you either implement or improve on that?
I think what that feasibility study also revealed to us was the fact that we missed the opportunity. We had our fire union coming to our administration presently and saying, we have a proposal, we have a vetted proposal from a community that has taken on their own EMS service. And we refused to look at that proposal while we were taking in these American Rescue Funds. That was the opportune moment. That's what our fire union and firefighters were saying, is that we want to be held to a higher standard. We want to take this responsibility on, and we think we can handle it. And here's a proposal that we're going to position to this administration for you to look at. And we did not look at it within the amount of time that we had. We literally came down to 2 weeks before our prior ambulance services contract was up in December. And what one of our own council members called it was a Hail Mary that got us through with the current EMT service that we have. That also cost us $4 million in American Rescue Funds to pull off that Hail Mary. And so we can celebrate the success that our city's not without EMS service right now. We can celebrate the success that American Rescue Funds have revitalized our parks. But when the mayor talks about fundamentals, we talk about what a CEO, because that's what a mayor's job is. It's to be the CEO of the city. And if we're going to talk fundamentals, we can't just see right now. We have to be able to see down the road and look at what it's going to require to maintenance parks. I would think that that study, if we look at when it was published, came out well after we had already contracted with EMS. And at this point, it's too late to really talk about owning our own in the way that we wanted it proposed. What we have now is the opportunity to take some of that guidance from that proposal and really try and infuse it into our current police and, our current fire department, and look at, is it possible to wean ourselves off of this current company and allow our fire department to begin to take that service over in a phased way? That's a possibility, but presently we missed that opportunity when our firefighters and fire union was telling us we had a proposal, and they wanted a piece of that American Rescue Fund as an opportunity. It was a prime opportunity to give them the floor and allow them to speak to us.
Mayor Brown, you'd like to rebuttal?
Absolutely. I think we're mentioning the wrong words. You're hearing that there was a proposal. Proposals sound great. At the end of the day, how are you going to fund it? You got to have the right staffing. You got to have the right equipment. And yeah, we could have outfitted the ambulance at that time. The issue is what would happen later on. And he's right. As a CEO, as the mayor, I looked at it. It was going to be a long-term problem. There's a reason that we don't have ambulance service. We had it at one time. We're talking about billing. We're talking about staffing. We're talking about whether do you keep the ambulance on or the fire truck on. And if you don't have enough men and women who are equipped to run those trucks and the ambulance, what do? We looked at safety first, and our safety first was to make sure that we have trucks that can go out for the fire and individuals that can get to the ambulance. And we see that that's one of these are issues that are across the nation. And when I work with other mayors across the nation, the U.S. Conference of Mayors, these are things we talk about. And it sounds great to say, take the proposal and let's do it. But at the end of the day, when you're talking 5 to 6 years down the road and the citizens are talking about, we can't afford these ambulance service, but it's a better process for us now to have a contractor take care of that for us. And that's what they're going with. I don't have the overhead, I don't have the upkeep. I have a contractor I can continue to work with. Now, if there's other opportunities to do it with state funding, these are unfunded mandates. The cities are not being funded with this. So safety's first. Proposal sounds great, but at the end of the day, you're CEO, you got to look at the long-term effects. And I work for the citizens of Youngstown. I do not want to burden them with the undue cost that is going to come down the road where we could have avoided it. And this is one of the feasibility told us we're on the right path right now.
Let's move on. Mr. McDowell, Youngstown continues to be a city of 60,000 with few options for affordable, fresh, quality food. We are a city with a food desert problem. And I'm wondering what ideas you have to tackle this issue and bring affordable, fresh food to the city.
Well, that's a matter of us first, not just continuing to say that we have a food access issue. We have done very little work to identify exactly where we need to ensure that food gets access to. And so how many of our community members of that 60,000 are the ones that are struggling? We can see an investment on the south side with the Fresh Mart that YNDC has brought us. But do we exactly know with a strategic plan where exactly the next Fresh Mart needs to go? We had a bottom dollar on Glenwood, and we didn't have discussions with the community about possibly making that a larger extension of a Fresh Mart that could provide more access to those fresh foods to a larger portion of our population. The south side of Youngstown is the most populous side of town. Now, I'm not here disparaging any other plans for that property, but I'm saying discussions need to be had, and we need to know exactly where opportunities exist to expand on fresh foods right in our face as a model. That is now a city-owned property. We have clawed it back at this point, and we could have chosen to talk with folks about what they want to see in that space, and making sure that access to fresh food on the east side that is often mainly forgotten about in our discussions. What are they looking for? We've got proposals for things like the chill can plant, but we have not asked the community what they want to see in those kinds of spaces. We've had that property sitting there for close to a decade. And when I talk with our residents, whether it's the right idea or not, we have not given them voice to say that we'd like to see a grocery store here or the McGuffey Mall site here. We go back to the proposal from the fire department, and I'm just going to touch on it briefly. What I want to clarify is we didn't even look at the proposal. We refused to look at that idea. And a CEO who's cutting off opportunities placed before them is not only cutting off strategy that could be worked into our plans, but we're leaving our law enforcement, we're leaving our safety forces, we're leaving our community out of some of the most vital discussions, and that is taking our city's morale into the dumps. It is taking our city's engagement levels down to places where most folks are apathetic because they know that, yes, ideas are ideas, but that's where execution begins, at idea. And when we won't listen to where our community is saying they want to see fresh access to food, when we miss opportunities to expand on things like a Fresh Mart on the Glenwood corridor, those are the things we need to talk about.
Mayor Brown, I'd like to offer you a chance for a rebuttal, but first let me ask this question. In 2018, you visited Toledo to see how they were handling their food desert issue, like many other major cities in Ohio are dealing with. At the time, you said you would formulate a strategic plan. At one point, you mentioned using ARP money to attract a grocery store. It's now 2025, and that still has not materialized. Why?
Well, first of all, let me say the ProMedica, where we went to Toledo, that is closed down now. So what we did continue the strategy, and I think let me clarify several things. We actually have on the old bottom dollar space we're putting what we call Cornerstone Market off a co-op. So I never stopped thinking about a grocery store. I hear from the residents. I hear the one thing they talk about, I want a grocery store. I need a grocery store. So for the bottom dollar location, we're going to have an infant mortality clinic in there. We're going to have a Cornerstone Markets with fresh fruits, vegetables, and farmers can grow and sell there because they can't sell at other places across the community because they can't afford the rents. So we're helping those who can't afford in different places for the Cornerstone. When you hear the words that there's no strategic plan, our economic development team has been talking with different organizations to figure out how do we strategize for those businesses who are going to be in there to be the market for them. How do we help them with the tools and toolkits that we have? We talk about economic development. We talk about farmers. But we figured, you know what we need to do? We need to figure out how we can do it ourselves. We can grow our own market. We can grow our own farmers here in the city, in this community. And we're seeing growth there at the Cornerstone, at the bottom dollar. So to say it's not happening, it is happening. It's not happening at a full scale. We had a mobile market, was our first approach. So we did listen to that. Cornerstone recently was doing a survey to individuals, what would they like to see? They were in the parking lot. Now they're going to be inside over the winter. But these are giving vendors who can't afford to be at other places across the city opportunities to be entrepreneurs with their fresh fruits and their vegetables and their products. So that zip code right there is one of the most economic depressed zip codes in the city, and we want to make sure that we can help them there. So we've worked on it. We're continuing to work on it. It's still on my radar, but you can't fund it by yourself. I needed federal, I needed state, I needed local funding as well. We had all of those representatives there. There was not an appetite at that time, a little bit after COVID, to do so. We've had, I won't put the stores out there, that we've had a lot of CEOs here, and they just didn't look and see the appetite. So our economic development team are still chasing this. This is something that's on our radar. But if they can't come here, we're going to grow our own, like Detroit did. They made their own co-op, and we're working to do that in that space.
Mr. McDowell, would you like to respond?
I would just like to say that this is an example of where our community can get much better at its collaboration as well. Because you're sitting here talking to someone who's running for mayor who completely understands what a community market looks like, because that's why we built the Youngstown Flea. We understand what it means to bring vendors into a space to allow them the opportunity to serve a community. And so we have not been engaged by this city or this administration to assist with those kinds of things that we're doing wonderfully at for the last 10 years. And so when we talk about community collaboration, we're leaving people off of the conversation that are vital. And we're just sitting as one example. And I know folks are going to take that and they're going to run with it, but Youngstown Flea sits as a marketplace that has had those people that Mayor Brown is talking about, the farmers and fresh produce, the vendors that can bring us access to the things that we need. And so not only YNDC is one of those people who's a community partner, the Youngstown Flea is one of those community partners that could be engaged to help move along a project by his own admission is still moving slow and haven't materialized yet. And so we have to have that conversation. How many folks are we leaving out of the conversation? How many folks are not at the table when these strategic plans are being made?
I want to talk about the community itself. Mayor, you know that the city received almost $83 million in ARP funds, and of that, 27.5 was used for neighborhood and economic redevelopment. Money is being used to tear down blight, roof replacement projects are ongoing, and facade programs, just to name a few. Once the city is looking more welcoming, how do you plan to attract more people to move into the city?
So one of the things we're going to focus over, Lindsay, over the next 2 years, we're going to invest $25 million in new homes, rehab homes, or home ownership. And we'll do it this way. If you already live here, we have a facade grant program for you. We'll match up to $10,000 for you to work on your sidewalks, doors, garage, anything that's on your facade. We'll match. If you're already in the home, we'll match it. But also, if you want to become a new homeowner in the city of Youngstown, we'll match with a $10,000 down payment assistance and $15,000 for energy improvements. So we're focusing on housing. Housing is one of the toughest issues across the nation. So those are the two pieces. And then if you want to buy a new home, we're building new homes in the city of Youngstown. That had not happened under any other administration. So we got rehab, we're rehabbing projects, down payment assistance for those who want to be new homeowners. And if you want to get a new home in the city of Youngstown, we're helping you do that. So we're making sure that there's quality, affordable housing. And Lindsay, also, if you don't necessarily want to be a buyer or purchaser, we're working with landlords to help them improve their property so that our residents who live in their property, they can have quality housing to afford to do so. As we talk about where we live, where we play, now we have new parks, now we have new homes, and now we're growing a community. The quality of our life is growing. So we're having a healthier community because of these things that we've done. We removed 3,400 vacant homes and property, and now it's ready for development in those neighborhoods.
Mr. McDowell, following this aggressive blight removal plan, how do you plan to attract new people to move into the city?
I think we have to look at what other communities are doing and making sure that we are mirroring that. When you talk about demolishing 3,400 homes, what we just learned in a recent CPED meeting is that there are still 3,400 vacant homes in the possession of the Mahoney County Land Bank. And so our residents are asking us, why do we continue to demolish homes right in their face when there's a nationwide shortage of housing? And so they want access, they want resources, they want educated on how they can step in and grab one of these homes. Often what's happening to us is that we're letting them sit and decay, and then they need demolition. And so we can't demolish our way out of our despair. We have to have a strategy that says that the average resident who may not be able to afford one of these new homes that's being built, and we have to be clear about these new homes that are being built as well. The entities that are building these homes aren't always the city of Youngstown. It is YNDC, it is the land bank, it is them going after funding from the state that's building many of these homes. And the other homes that are being built with, again, American Rescue funds that will exhaust and is not a strategic plan on how you continue. So again, I would believe that the community wants to know clearly and transparently where Mayor Brown proposes this $25 million investment in new homes is going to come from. That's what's missing. Tell us where it's going to come from. And in the meantime, communities that are attracting people to their area are focused on their education. They're focused on the quality of life that they have. Do our residents still feel safe in our community? What is the job opportunity like? If we want to attract people to the city of Youngstown, it should not be something that we've got to do to twist their arm. And the incentives from the government aren't going to be sustainable either. You look at Columbiana and around Firestone Farms, they have the tax abatements that we have for building new homes. They have folks who are building those homes with their own money. That is sustainable. We cannot continue to rely on subsidizing this. It might be a catalyst to begin with, but that, as a CEO, when I look at those things as a mayor, we need to be talking about the existing stock that we have, how to maintain those 3,400 homes still in the county land bank, and get them to our residents in a comprehensive way before they wind up decaying or being demolished, and then talk about all the other precipitating factors that make people move to a community.
And Mayor Brown, would you like to respond?
I'll just say you can look up our housing strategy, and that's all the things that he talked about. Just because he's not at the table, that doesn't mean it's not happening. So you can look at the City of Youngstown housing strategy. All those things he talked about in there, those are the things that we talked about, because he's absolutely right. But you can't sustain this that long, but you can subsidize to a little bit. The spark. Individuals want to buy a home. I get calls all the time. Individuals say, I was looking to buy a home in the city of Youngstown. What kind of incentives do you have? I already live outside of the state. I want to come in the city of Youngstown because the land value and the land market is so great. And the other thing you heard is that individuals want to take the houses and rehab them. Well, a lot of times when we demo the homes, we legally don't have the obligation. We don't own those properties. We're doing it because Ms. Jackson is tired of that vacant, dilapidated house that's been next to her for the last 10 years. The family walked away from it. She has to cut the grass, and she's worried about the rodents, and she's worried about the crime. So I can't say that I won't take those homes away from her, because she wants the peace of mind like everyone else. She deserves to have a quiet neighborhood. So we take those properties down by law because it's a quality of life issue. But you can't say we'll leave it there for somebody else to take. We don't own them.
Mr. McDowell, would you like to respond?
Yes.
Okay.
So again, we talk about, I mean, this is one of the first times that I've heard our community being pointed to a strategy, because I've asked, and many of our residents have asked over and over again, Where is the comprehensive strategy for the full $82.7 million that we got? Point me to that link where the strategy is telling us that we've got this investment for this reason. We talk about the city has a housing strategy, but so did the chamber, so did YNDC. We have competing strategies oftentimes because we're not bringing them together. And so what will we do to bring in new folks to the residency of Youngstown? We have to get this city to understand who it is. And that's why you hear me talking about reclaiming our identity. And as we know who we are and what we can serve up to our residents, what we can serve up to the valley, what we can serve up to the region and the state, that will bring in the industry. So the jobs, if you look at Warren, they are bringing in a $600 million investment through Kimberly-Clark. And it was just announced that another $160 million investment will potentially be made off of that same site. And that investment will bring in the jobs. And because you're bringing in that labor force, they're going to want new housing. They're going to want quality education. And so that's where we must start. Economic development has a broad reach to making sure that we bring in an investment like Kimberly-Clark or something equivalent so that we can begin talking about how to build new and sustainable here.
And I'm going to continue this conversation on economic development. Mr. McDowell, I'm starting with you. For 22 years, Youngstown has had one of the top 5 highest municipal income tax rates in the state. Do you feel this hurts our chances of more development as people look to pay less in taxes? Do you think it's a good time to help cut the cost of those who work in the city as well?
We've investigated this. The 2.75% is, I believe, almost the third highest in the state of Ohio across our 88 counties. And so at this juncture where we're at, we don't have the ability to cut that percentage rate down. The income tax pays for the quality of life services that we need, our police, our fire. Someone likened it to trying to get someone off of an addiction. Trying to reduce that income tax rate is something that we're going to have a long-term strategy around because it's reliant on how many folks we have here contributing to that bottom line. And if we continue to see population decline, then that burdens even more folks with that 2.75%. So, of course, I would love to see it reduced. We can talk about a strategy on stepping it down, but I did some numbers myself. And if you want even 0.25% of that reduced, that 2.75%, you would be looking at something like having to bring in close to 10% more population. 10% more population, and you talk about where we're going to go from there. This income tax rate is only one of the hurdles. The business environment that people work in is another hurdle for us because we had a study commissioned by our economic development department, and it said that if we want to see new businesses coming into the city of Youngstown, we first have to learn how to take care of our existing businesses. And so that's a long-term strategy as well. I want to be in there, door knocking with our downtown stakeholders, with those businesses in the local community, saying, how do we make you more sustainable? How do we grow Penguin City Brewery, for example, using our city-owned facilities? If we had a concert with 20,000+ people, if they could have tasted Penguin City or Noble Creature or Dope Cider House and Winery, we grow them. And when we grow them, they now are paying us more because they're hiring more employees. They are asking us for more property because they have to expand. They are now giving us more income tax so that we can spread that out so that our burden isn't just on a few, but we've got to bring in more.
And Mayor Brown, in your experience, have you seen this income tax rate deter businesses from locating here? Do you believe it's time that we cut the income tax rate? And if not, how do you justify it?
Actually, we're not at a point where we can cut, but we've come up with a creative idea to how do we help expand business and grow business. We came up with a job creation grant with our local businesses that are here for the income tax. We have a grant where we work with the employer and the city, and we share in that income tax revenue. And we're seeing great growth there. And I say Steel Light is one, Trivium is another. I think Valoric Steel will be another one, expansion pretty soon. So we've taken that note, say that we cannot afford to reduce it. But here's what we're going to do. We talk with the business owners. When we sit down, our economic development team, we talk with them. What is it that we can do to get you here, or what can we do to have you expand? And the income tax was an issue. And we came in, what about a shared over the years and a step down process? And it's been a success for us. We have businesses that call and say, listen, I'm here. What thresholds do I have to meet to actually get to be a part of this job creation grant? And we're seeing growth right there. So to talk about it, one thing, to actually do it. We're doing this. We're not talking about it, what we think we'll do. When we talk about business expansion and growth, you got to advocate for all business. You can't just advocate for one business that's located in one area. I have to be the mayor of all the business across the city. And some of those business, they forget so soon how when they need something, they call the mayor's office. And some of the same business that are critiquing the income tax or critiquing the mayor's office, they're the same ones that call, and we've helped them with infrastructure issues. When they needed water, they didn't have water. When there was infrastructure pipes busted, and the city took on that role for them, because we believe that we want to help them grow. So we continue to advocate, but we can't just advocate for 2 business or 3 business, and we can't be self-promotion. This got to be for everybody. As mayor, I don't have a chance to pick my friend's business or my business. As mayor, I have to be the mayor to everyone, and everybody's issue, no matter how big or small, it's their issue, and I have to deal with it.
All right, as the time ticks down, I want to get to some important issues before this debate is over. Mayor Brown,
sure you would.
When the Realty building exploded, it was discovered that the contract work being done was ordered by the city and that no one, including anyone from the city, raised a concern about the gas line that was cut. Does the city bear any responsibility for that disaster, and what should your administration's role be in whatever is built on that land?
The 2 things I'll say is, first of all, I want to say that my hearts and prayers go out to Akil Drake and his family, those Chase workers who worked in that building, those who lost their valuables in the Realty building, and then International Towers had to leave. Ultimately, Lindsay, it was the responsibility of that building owner for whatever contract that was let with the building owner, as well as the contractors that he had. We don't take that lightly. Nobody in the studio but me had to look that mother in her eye and tell her that was her baby and that we had to pull out of that building. I don't take it lightly. I don't use that as a political ploy. It is shame on anyone who wants to use that as a political ploy. But I tell you what did happen, Lindsay. There was a point where the city of Youngstown, we stepped in because safety was #1 for us. We made sure that we secured that building, made sure we looked at what's the best alternative for it. And at the end of the day, it was not the city's decision to decide what to do with the building. It was the building owner as well as the insurance company to deal with the building. I want to tell this community, thank you, because that was a great point for the city of Youngstown. When we all came together and we said we're going to help no matter what in this situation. And United Way stepped up. There were so many people that came up, and I wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you at that difficult time. But as mayor, I led through that difficult time. I didn't shy away from it. But I made sure the citizens were first, the safety of this community was next. And I continue to say, what goes there, we want to see something that's going to make sure that it fits into the city downtown. We've talked about what we like to see, but at the end of the day, the building owner or the building property owner is the one that has the ultimate decision. And hopefully, we want something that sits there and it'll be better than what was there before.
And Mr. McDowell, I'm going to move to you. It was discovered that the Realty building explosion was caused by a third-party contractor who was hired by the city. What would you do if elected to make sure that something like this does not happen again? And what would be your ideas for redevelopment of that land?
Sure, thank you. When we talk about Realty Tower, this is not something that anyone would try and use for political gain. And so for anyone to insinuate that, I hope they're not speaking about me, because I was there. I was there downtown when the building exploded, and I was there helping folks. I offered up my own space for displaced residents of Realty Tower. I was there helping International Tower residents move out, and I was there to help them move back in. And so this is a community loss for us all. And so we're not talking about something that we all don't understand on a human capital level, the losses that we all incurred there, the damage that was caused. But Realty Tower is something that we must learn from, because we have to know that the Smart 2 project is what led us down Federal Street to Realty Tower. That project brought us an autonomous shuttle that not even the city wants at this point. It tried to sell to WRTA and they don't even want it. And so this is a case in which a Smart 2 project that has caused road dieting and construction that has led to Realty Tower is something that we can't ignore when it comes to true accountability. We're not seeing a mayor say to the community of downtown stakeholders that where was our safety? When we talk about safety being number one, and that's what the mayor said, safety was number one for him. Not one communication from this administration went out when Realty Tower exploded that day. There is no emergency communication system for our downtown business owners and stakeholders, similar to what you see in Youngstown State University's campus with a penguin alert. So imagine being a stakeholder or a business owner with patrons inside your establishment when Realty Tower explodes and having no communication whatsoever about what to do in this emergency. We talk about the responsibilities around the utilities. The NTSB report tells us that utilities were still on hours after the explosion. One of the saddest things that broke my heart to hear and read was that the loss of life with Akil Drake. Additionally, on top of what happened to him, there was water that filled his lungs because that was not shut off as one of the utilities. The electric was not shut off in a timely manner. There was confusion all around the calls from our emergency services into those utility companies. We have a lot to study and a lot to learn about Realty Tower when it comes to the looting that we saw from the demolition company. When we told residents they couldn't go in there to get their things, we watched it be taken by others. We have a conversation we need to have about how we treat historical buildings in our downtown. We said that it was imminent danger of collapse, and yet we had to watch for close to 90 days as a contractor banged on that building, that historical building that we all knew was overbuilt. We have not done an economic impact loss study that tells us exactly how much, because of the Realty Tower's explosion, why was there not an emergency plan in place? Why is there not an emergency declaration from a governor that could step in and provide us additional aid that could help recover the downtown? We had to cancel the Italian Fest. We had to suspend and postpone the Tim McGraw Festival. We had to close down hotels. We're not talking about how much money it cost us and how we did not lead through recovery. So we understand the loss of human capital. There is no replacement for that. I know that. Our community has to live with that. But we also need to talk about what Realty Tower has taught us. And a year and a half later, we're still missing critical components when it comes to emergency response.
Mayor Brown, you can respond.
I did. Actually, I'd love to say that. Lindsay, here's what would happen. If we had no engineer, no structural engineer that said, I will sign off and say that building is structurally sound and you can leave it up. Nobody. We called local and national. No one would do it. At the end of the day, if that building would have fallen, you would have been the first one with a microphone say, Mr. Mayor Brown, why did you let that building stay up? Why didn't you tear it down? We err on the side of caution. The safety is number one. We take it serious. There was an economic impact initiative that was looked at. So there were, just because he doesn't hear it, he's not at the table, doesn't mean it's not happening. We looked at what's the impact. That's how we came up with the recovery funds for the downtown. When we did the opening, we started looking at how do we help our downtown businesses get going, what they need. I talked to the governor about the declaration. And the best thing they would do is they gave us, the Ohio Department of Development gave us money for the International Tower residents. So the communication was there. Things were happening. Just because people don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. So at the end of the day, when we work on the behalf of the citizens. We don't work on just one group, one organization. I work on behalf of all the citizens of the city of Youngstown.
Would you like to respond?
I just want to respond because we brought that up now twice to suggest that the example I gave of a business or several businesses in our city are somehow preferential treatment. We not only need to see those businesses that I mentioned, but all of those businesses. We don't ask of our elected officials to say to us things like, just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. We demand transparency. That's the kind of mayor that I'm telling you that we need and that I will be. Fully transparent about our strategy when it comes to emergency response. Again, you don't hear Mayor Brown telling you that we have a communication system in place right now. That is what I'm planning on delivering to this community. I gave you the example of Youngstown State University's penguin alerts on purpose because I want to know if we have that in place or we don't. Because if we don't have it in place, I, as a tax-paying resident, I, as your next mayor, am guaranteeing you that we are going to put in place the measures that will ensure, because out of Realty Tower, that explosion caused days later a full evacuation of the downtown because folks were still smelling gas. And yet we still did not communicate to a community to quell their fears about whether or not an additional explosion could occur. And so that's what we're talking about, and that's what I want to deliver as your next mayor. Full transparency and making sure we're not saying to folks, just because you're not at the table. We need to ensure that we are doing our best job at inviting as many folks to the table. We serve the entire community, and that is the business community. But if we want to serve the entire community, when it comes to a mayor stating that he doesn't just represent one business or one entity, then we have to go back to 20 Federal Place and ask how we served those evicted businesses that were pushed out of that building. We did not serve them well.
I'd like to stay on the topic of businesses in the city. Mr. McDowell, they say that they feel like they are not being heard with their concerns. They have faced many challenges over the years. They've told us about it, with COVID to large-scale construction. They feel like the city has been dismissive of their concerns. How would you do things differently?
You go directly to the people who are telling you exactly what they need. I'm a business owner myself. I've been in that world. 10 years of running my own small business. My background is in leadership, running stores for AT&T. And so business is my background. And largely folks who run businesses don't need much, but they don't need additional obstructions that impede their ability to do business. And so if we're listening to what these business owners are saying, then what they are saying to us is that we are dying downtown because of poorly planned, not well mitigated construction. Often it's construction that, again, came out of the Smart 2 project that was not necessary to be done. It was done on the backs of a driverless shuttle that still had to be driven around our downtown. And if our business owners are saying that my customers are still challenged with where to park, then that means we still have a parking challenge to solve. Now, what folks are saying to us is we're looking for convenient parking. We understand that a Tim McGraw or a John Mayer concert is going to have us parking a little further away. But when I'm just trying to pick up a slice of pizza from the Avalon, I need access. I watch people lap the block. They let a passenger out of their car to run into the store, and they must lap the block to get to the business that they want to patron. And we're saying that we're listening to them, but we are not. And so what I plan on doing is making sure I, as your mayor, go to these businesses. We have to rebuild trust with them. We have to go to them. We just learned that there's vacancies all on our street level. And we're saying to them that they should recommend other folks to come here. They won't do it until the environment changes, until we acknowledge their concerns. And God forbid we have a mayor that will look them in the eye like I will and say, I am sorry for everything that you have to go through. We cannot have leadership that refuses to take accountability and refuses to say that if I'm your leader and you want to be called a leader, then you better be willing to be called to the carpet for that leadership and those decisions.
Mayor Brown, we have interviewed many of those businesses downtown. We've heard their concerns. They claim there's no plan to improve the downtown, no support for them in general. How do you plan to repair those relationships?
You know what, let's talk about what we've done. And it appears that the city's not done anything. And I can tell you, from those business owners that you've talked to, all of them have my cell phone. I've not returned any of those calls. Many of them, we've had great relationships. I think it started when we started seeing those American Rescue Plan dollars. If you can hear the theme, American Rescue Plan dollars. We gave monies and it wasn't enough. And I think what we gave $3.5 million to our business development, and it generated $6 million in investment in our city. We gave one owner $11,000. That says good, but what isn't enough? My question is, I don't have a problem with helping, But when does it come for the business owners to step up and say, here's what I'm doing? We do incentives for them as well. We work with them. I think we've done professional development for the FLEA to help them. We've given them assistance as well. They forget that we've helped. At what point do we stop? We talk about the SMART 2, and I think it's really disparaging to hear that it was a failed project, because it's a competitive project that just didn't happen with the city of Youngstown. It was multiple partners across the city. All of our Youngstown State, the chambers, the Gateway, Eastern Gateway, they all got together and say, this is a great idea and it's a great thought. And now we want to disparage it because somebody doesn't like how it's built. When you get those federal funds, sometimes they're restricted. They tell you, here's what you need to do. We tried two times, and it's only the third time that we got this grant. So it wasn't that we just got the grant because nobody else wanted it. I talk to mayors across the nation all the time, and they ask me, Mayor, how did you get that grant? I want to have that grant. Our downtown looks better than it's ever lived. I lived here all my life. I didn't just move here. I lived here all my life. I watched our downtown open and close, open and close. And now when people come here, my family and friends came all throughout the summer and they said, man, I've never seen downtown look this well. We can't just have those who critique what it looks like. We might not like everything, but it's better than what it was. And we continue to see growth. The citizens of Youngstown want what everyone else wants. They want paved roads, good streets, and a great quality of life. And we try to give that to them. And your first question was, how do I plan on building relationships? I'll take any of those calls right now. I'm a mayor to everybody. I don't have a problem with if you say, Mayor, I still need this, I'll take care of you.
I want to, for sake of time, get to questions for each of you. Mayor Brown, you are asking voters to keep you in office for a third term, the first mayor to do so since term limits were eliminated decades ago. Why should voters stay the course? You know what? Over the last 8 years, we've shown a physical accountability. We've had 8 years of balanced budgets. We've had 4 clean state audits, and we raised our credit score. Our accountability to the state auditor, we're more transparent than any other administration in the history of the Youngstown, because we're seeing these audits. We're seeing our tax rate go up, our schedule go up, for our credit score go up. Our crime is down. Nowhere can anyone find it. 56% reduction in crime, 20% overall. We have a safer city. We have great quality of life now. And we got a healthier community that we've never had before. We're seeing that the neighborhoods are growing, they're getting better, and we're seeing investment. Our innovation hub, $74 million innovation hub that's happening, aerospace and defense, those are things that are happening for our next generation. So that's why I'm asking the voters, let's finish the job we started. I'm showing you that I can be accountable for your finances. I'm growing our revenue from $176 million to $220 million. That our streets are safer than they've ever been, that our neighborhoods are healthier than they've ever been, and now we have a brighter future for our next generation. That's what I'm asking for them to do. And I'm just humbly asking them, let's finish the job we started. We know the problems. The issue is, what's the solutions? How do we get to the solution? As your mayor, 5 words: find a problem, solve it. I've been solving problems for the last 8 years, and some of the things that were here when I got here are no longer problems. Mr. McDowell, you are asking voters to change course after 8 years. Why should they trust you with no political experience to oversee a city of 60,000 people?
Well, I would say to those residents, thank you for even the opportunity to place myself before this community, but I don't believe they're asking for another politician. I believe they're asking for someone that sees them, someone that's in the neighborhoods talking with them about creating what I want to call priority projects across every ward in our community, so that they have a vested interest in making sure those things come to pass. That is what they'll be able to hold me accountable for. We're going to sit in those block watches, in those neighborhood groups, and those community associations and strengthen them, because they have raised their hands and said, I want to be a part of the beautification. I want to be a part of that crime reduction. I want to be a part of engaging with our youth. I want to be a part of Youngstown's story in a greater way. I'm asking folks to see a mayor who is willing to stop playing with these kinds of situations that are so important to them. Stop with the bolstering of our budget with American rescue funds. Stop saying to them things that we know are required by state law. Balancing a budget is required by an administration. It's not something that we can just simply say we did without the help. We took $10 million and infused it from these American Rescue Funds into our general fund to recover losses. So we want a mayor who is willing to step in and see all 31 neighborhoods, every single one of them, and appropriately respond to them with transparency, with accountability, with bold, fresh new ideas and execution. And I'm asking folks to dig deeply into my background. Don't overturn any stone that you're not, seeing. Overturn it, look it over completely, because when you go to that ballot box and decide to check McDowell for mayor, you are saying that this is someone I believe can help reclaim the identity of our community away from all of the murders that have occurred, away from that mob mentality that we cling to, and there are still folks out there clinging to it, away from that steel mill narrative that plagues us over and over and over again, preserving that narrative in the right way, but marketing ourselves as a fresh, new, diverse community based on what we know to be our identity. I'm asking you as an entrepreneur to help me bring back that entrepreneurial spirit for our city, because that is what brought us the mills. That's the identity. I want us to lean into the identity that brings us back to our arts, culture, and entertainment that should be renowned across the region. And I'm asking us to see our athletic prowess and see that as an opportunity to engage this community. We have always been athletes, and we can use it in today's world to build back industry in a number of different ways. And so when you think of me, I want you to see those things.
And as I mentioned at the beginning of the debate, a coin was flipped prior to the start of the debate, and that was going to decide if the winner was going to go first with the question or last with the last statements. So, Mr. McDowell, you won the flip of the coin. You chose to go last with the closing statements. So, Mr. Mayor, I'll start with you.
As I took on this job 8 years ago, I told you that I wouldn't cave to money, power, and politics, and that I would put the citizens of Youngstown first. I remain committed to that. I work for you daily. I'll continue to work for you. I'm asking you to consider what we've done over the last 8 years. We've gone through some difficult times, but we've led through some great times. We've grown as a city. We're not the city that we used to be. That's our used to be story. Now we're open for business. We don't want to go back to the past. We want to continue moving forward. And if you want the mayor to continue moving Youngstown forward, I'm asking you to go out and please vote November 4th for Jamael Tito Brown, because I've been steady at the hand, moving us forward, and I know how to continue moving us where we need to go.
And Mr. McDowell.
I just want to say thank you to this community. This has been the honor of my life to even just have the audacity to put my name in this hat. It is a journey that I'll never forget, and I'm asking this community to see something that I see. That's probably one of the most difficult things to ask of this community, to see education for our scholars in the way that I see it. Education that focuses from a mayor's perspective as being a champion for this district, walking it through what we see coming in the unifying of our schools, walking it through the challenges of parental engagement and attendance and reading on grade level. I'm asking you to see Derrick McDowell as he is an entrepreneur fighting for all small businesses across our community, not just the few, all of them, those that were evicted from 20 Federal Place and those that have chosen to stay. We did not fund those folks because we just wanted to. We had to fund them because of the damage that we caused to them. And so I see you and I hear you, and I'm willing to work. I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and do the hard work of making sure that downtown has its proper investment, but downtown is a neighborhood amongst 30 other neighborhoods that need their proper investment. They need investment when it comes to parents figuring out ways to deal with their youth. They need the resources for owning homes that exist here now that are vacant, that I've seen for the last 11 months as I've door knocked. They need access to the resources that are going to take them and their family to the next level. Collectively as a community, I'm asking you to see what I see, and on November 4th, go and elect Derrick McDowell for mayor.
Okay, that concludes our Decision 2025 Youngstown Mayoral Debate. Gentlemen, thank you for your participation, a productive conversation, and thank you for not talking over each other. The voters, I know, appreciated the information that you provided. Now, this debate will be posted in its entirety on the 21 News app, WFMJ.com, and the WFMJ YouTube channel. Got to go check that out. We're going to have full coverage starting tonight on 21 News at 5. We'll see you there. Thank you for watching.